is we're going to grow probiotics. Isn't this the cricket? I don't want to touch that. So we're going to, what we're going to do is we're going to heat this to 90 degrees, like I said, and then what we're going to do is we're going to combine it with a kefir starter, which is a bunch of probiotics. So the thing is, people always ask, well, can I just drink the coconut water? What do you think the answer is? No. Why? It's not fermented and it's full of sugar. And so do you know what the probiotics do? They eat up the sugar and they multiply. So what you're doing is sort of like the opposite of what the bad guys do inside your body. What you're doing is you're going to grow a whole bunch of probiotics. So you use these jars. I think that this works out. These work out pretty much the best. They're 8-ounce canning jars that you can buy at Osh or Smart & Final. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the kefir starter and we're going to portion it evenly amongst the jars. In the instructions in the kefir starter, it just tells you to mix it with the coconut water. But I find that it's better to apportion it in the jars than just mix it in the coconut water, because if you just mix it into the whole pot of the coconut water, it's going to fall to the bottom, and you're going to have a hard time getting it into these jars. So a lot of people say, well, why don't I just put it in one big jar? And you can, except there's so many advantages of having these little jars that I really recommend that you get them, because what's awesome about them is you don't have to keep opening and closing your kefir, which exposes it to airborne bacteria. You also can just take it with you. It's very portable. So if you go to work and you're thinking, how am I going to do all this, because what am I going to take to work and what am I going to eat? You can take these with you. And because they're going to be fermenting, they don't even have to be refrigerated. So it's not like you have to have a refrigerator. So all I'm doing right now is taking this kefir starter and apportioning it about evenly, in your 6 jars that we have. We have 6 jars here. The coconut water is 32 ounces. It's made to go exactly with this kefir starter packet. Here's the kefir starter. There's 6 packets in here. You're going to use 1 packet for 32 ounces. They've planned it that way so that you can make one batch. You get your 6 jars, and that works out pretty good too, because what I recommend is that you drink 2 jars a day. And so what's going to happen is, by the time it's sort of in its fermenting process, you're going to have it fully, let's see, that's getting warm, so I'm going to turn that off. I just felt it with my finger and it's kind of warm, so I turned that off because you don't want it to go past 90 degrees. But what's going to happen is, if you drink 2 of these a day, like I said, that's what I recommend, then you're going to be done drinking by the time it's past its time for fermenting. In other words, after 5 days, you have got to refrigerate it. But once you refrigerate it, it's like those yucky sprouts. It starts dying, and so it's not as good. So it's much better if you can just go ahead and drink it during the time when it's done fermenting. Now the other thing I'm going to do is, here's the probiotics. Okay, I'm going to put probiotics in it. Now that's not in the instructions in the kefir starter, but I want to add some more probiotics because I want to make this very, very, very potent. Okay, so this is the Super 8, which I recommend, Super 8 probiotic. One of these capsules has 42 billion probiotics. Okay, so you can imagine too, remember I said you have to have 4.5 pounds of probiotics in your body. That's a lot of probiotics. It's a teeny little capsule has 42 billion. What I'm going to do is, I've got 6 capsules. I'm going to open them and pour the powder into each one of these. Oops, one capsule per jar. There's also a recipe in there that in your handouts, so it's listed exactly how to do this. So I'm going to open this and put 1 in each jar, and you just pour the powder in there. And then I'm going to put one other thing, and it's called EcoBloom. EcoBloom is a prebiotic. So what that is that's food for the probiotics. And so I'm kind of doing this, again, a little bit different than it says in the kefir starter pack, because what I want to do is make a super potent kefir. So it has lots and lots of probiotics. Here's the EcoBloom, and it is food for the probiotics. So sort of think of it like fish. and you're feeding the fish. So I put about 1/3 of a scoop in each one of these jars. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to be ready to pour the coconut water into these jars. I'll get to that. Okay, so to make it easier, this is a very convenient way to do this, is to use one of these type of measuring cups because it's got a spout. So I'm going to take this, pour it into here. Okay, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pour it evenly into each of the 6 jars, and then I'm going to cover them, and then they're going to sit out. They're not going to refrigerate them you may have to refrigerate them after 5 days, but you're going to let them sit out and ferment, because what's going to happen is that these probiotics are going to eat up all the sugar that's in the coconut water, and they are going to multiply. So you're taking the coconut water, which is something you cannot have the way it is because it has too much sugar, and you're turning it into a probiotic drink, and it's heavily populated with probiotics because you're basically growing the probiotics. That's what you're doing. Okay? Does that make sense? So we are just going to cover these. We just cover these and let them sit out, and you're going to drink them. It's very clear on your recipe. I always have people asking me, but don't worry, it's somewhere in your handouts. You don't have to flip all your papers, but you'll see it. It's very important that you, first of all, that you start drinking. You can start drinking at about 2 days. 2 to 3 days is when you can start drinking.
2 days after you made it?
Yeah, so today is Saturday, so I would drink this on Monday afternoon about the same time you could start drinking it.
Don't we have to shake it up?
No, you do not shake it up, and you don't want to shake it up because it'll get moisture into these rims, and then they'll rust and whatever. You don't need to shake it up. When you drink it, you can slightly swirl it because there is some more probiotics at the bottom, but you'll see, well, you tasted the kefir. How did it taste to you guys? Good or too sour?
It's a little sour.
A little sour. Okay, so what you tasted is 2 days. That's 2 days of fermenting. So if that was too sour for you, you can do 1.5 days on your first batch. In other words, you're going to drink the first bottle on the 1.5 days, and you're going to drink 2 a day. But you'll notice, and trust me, this is absolutely the truth, you will notice that after drinking it, it starts tasting less and less sour to you. The first time I drank it, I thought, that's kind of sour. But then, now I drink it, and it actually tastes sweet to me, because your taste buds are going to change. Yes, that's your question.
I see you're covering it. Do you have to cover it?
Yes. You want to cover it because you don't want airborne bacteria or whatever to go in it. Yeah, you want to cover it. Yeah. So it's going to ferment, and at 2 days you can start drinking it at the beginning, but as you become more and more used to it, you will start drinking it at 3 days, which means, say you're a little bit down the road on this program, you're going to drink 2 on 3 days, 2 on 4th day, 2 on 5th day. You're going to be done. Okay? So then you start with the next batch. You can, and you don't have to, you can use 1 fully fermented jar as a starter for your next batch, which you would take but it has to be fully fermented, means at least 3 or 4 days. So you would take a tablespoon from here and put a tablespoon in each jar as your starter. You would still add the probiotic and the Eco Bloom, but you can do that, and you can do that up to 7 times, so that you can make up to 42 batches with one of these packets. It does.
Is this strong enough? Somebody more medically needs, they've been on antibiotics and they've been sick, and you're supposed to take really heavy doses of probiotics. Is this strong enough for them, or should they
much
have more?
heavier than this. This is the point that I'm trying to make. This is an awesome probiotic. I mean, I've taken people with food poisoning and had them take like half the bottle, which is 15 capsules, and in 20 minutes, all their food poisoning symptoms are gone.
So they've been on this big round of, you can have them do.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if a person's been on antibiotics, I mean, you could have them take a bunch of this. I'm not saying you can't, but what I am saying is, this is not a quick fix. Like I said before, this is a lifestyle change. You should be drinking I drink 2 of these every single day. You should be drinking this for the rest of your life because you need those 4.5 pounds of probiotics. And remember, I said every culture where people are healthy, that's one of the things that they do. They eat probiotic foods every day. So even if a person's been on heavy antibiotics, if you want, you could, supplement with some extra of these. But what that person really needs to do is just do this whole program, because then their whole chemistry, that whole chemistry is going to change. Okay, it's going to change, and after time, you're just not going to get sick anymore. You're not ever